Should the Philadelphia Eagles consider firing Vic Fangio and bringing in Robert Saleh as the team's defensive coordinator? That is the question I have been asked by numerous Eagles fans today amid the news of the New York Jets firing head coach Robert Saleh. On one note, I think that tells you that the Jets may have let a good guy go. If other teams' instant reaction is, can we get this guy on our coaching staff? He probably knows what he's doing, and he's had a top 5 defense for as long as he's been on the Jets and would be a great addition to any defensive staff. But per Diana Rossini, he came out basically and said he wants to go on a vacation. He's going to kind of take the rest of the season off, and then he's going to reassess going into next season, which makes sense. The Jets still have to pay him throughout next year, so he's still getting paid actively. I believe it's $20,000 a day or something like that to be the Jets head coach. So it's not like the guy is going to be short for change during his firing. But it did lead me to think, should the Philadelphia Eagles try and throw enough money at him to get him to join the staff this year? Should they fire Vic Fangio and try and bring him in if he's willing to do that? Should they pursue him next offseason as the team's potential head coach? And I want to talk through each of those ideas for you. For starters, I think if the Eagles could throw enough money at this guy to get him to just join Fangio's staff, you would have to say yes, that they should do it. There's no salary cap on coaches in the NFL. It's just a matter of, will Jeffrey Lurie write a check big enough? But considering this guy got Bryce Huff to 9.5 sacks last year, and he has a total of 1 pressure for the Eagles this year and 0 sacks, if you could bring him in and he could just fix Bryce Huff and make him an actual elite pass rusher, that alone would be worth the money. But I also do think that bringing in Robert Saleh to work alongside Vic Fangio, a guy who we kind of presume may be retiring after this year anyways, that could be a really good changing of the guard for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I don't want Robert Saleh to be the head coach of this team, and I think it's a little unrealistic that that would be the case. Philadelphia is one of the more modern NFL teams. They will go with an offensive-minded head coach. If they were to move on from Sirianni this offseason, it'll be Kellen Moore being elevated. It'll be Ben Johnson. It'll be Clint Kubiak. It'll be one of those offensive minds that's hitting the market, right? But I do think Robert Saleh would be a great addition to the Eagles coaching staff. Again, this is a guy who continuously had a top 5 defense. In the modern day NFL, it's, screw the defensive head coach. They stink. They're not worth it. It's not the move. And now a lot of people are even saying that about the CEO head coach, your Tomlins, your Harbaughs, your Dan Campbells, your Nick Siriannis, right? Guys that don't actively play call one side of the ball, but are just kind of a macro manager for the team, a CEO type role, a guy who is just a manager of the coordinators. That head coach is now getting a lot of hate. It is offensive-minded head coach. Everybody wants the next McVay, Kevin O'Connell, Andy Reid, and I get it, Matt LaFleur. These are good head coaches, but it's not like you need one of these coaches to go out there and win football games. I think that you could win with a defensive head coach, but the Eagles aren't going to go in that direction. Let's just be clear here. The Eagles are going to go with the offensive-minded head coach if they are to move on from Sirianni. That is clearly their prerogative. They're paying Jalen Hurts. They're paying Saquon Barkley. They are paying A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. The only defensive head coach I could actually see them potentially going after is Bill Belichick, and that's just because he's Bill Belichick. You could make the case he is the greatest coach to ever coach in the NFL and in the sports world. So that's the one exception I could see them making. But Robert Saleh, who had a 20-36 record, no, that will not be the Eagles' next head coach. But defensive coordinator, that's something I could get behind. Again, this is a guy who continuously gets the best out of his defenses, a top 5 unit. I think he was a little unjustly fired. We could have a conversation about that in the comment section if you guys want. But from the Eagles' perspective, one team's trash may be another team's treasure. And if it's me and I'm Jeffrey Lurie and I'm looking at this defense that's bottom 5 in the NFL against the pass, that has struggled now for about a season and a half of football, Robert Saleh, I'm picking up the phone and I'm seeing what the number is. And I'm not going to go tell Jeffrey Lurie how to spend his money, but as a fan, and there's no salary cap on coaches, I'd say hand him a blank check and get him to join the staff ASAP. Because again, it's a guy that you could groom to be your defensive coordinator. A couple successful years doing that, and then he can get back in the head coaching market. We've seen it before. It's kind of what's happening with Brian Flores in Minnesota. Now, I don't know if Flores will ever get a head coaching opportunity again. One, because all these teams seem to hate defensive coaches. but 2, because of the Tua situation. But I think Robert Saleh reestablishing himself on a good team, creating a good image, a guy who is liked, a guy who coaches up a good defense, a guy who can be a part of winning after being on the Jets might not be a bad idea for him. And for the Philadelphia Eagles, bringing in a good defensive mind to ship this defense into shape, I'm all here for it. And, obviously the pressing question, if you had to pick Saleh or Fangio, where would you go? It's tough, man, because obviously in a vacuum, I think Robert Saleh is the better defensive coordinator at this point in time. But you have to start factoring in all these guys on the Eagles defense have been learning the Fangio system. You'd bring in Saleh mid-season and have to switch that up on them, and they're not particularly a super talented group of guys either. It's not like it's one of these most talented defensive rosters. It's also a lot of young guys that you're asking again to switch systems. I don't think that Robert Saleh could come in, take over, and kick Fangio out the door and fix things like that. But I do think if he joined the staff, the defense could elevate. I hope that makes sense. But in short, this upcoming offseason, if Saleh's still on the market, Philly should target him as a defensive coordinator. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But let me know in the comment section, Eagles fans, do you want Robert Saleh in any way, shape, or form a part of the Eagles this season or next? And if so, why? If not, why not? If you love the Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you all. If you love the Philadelphia Eagles, hit the like button. I'm out. I'll catch you. Peace.